Welcome back to ShopDog-Garage. I imagine this is going to be a 78 Camaro video. So, sure you notice, core support's looking a little nicer than it did. Real happy how these came out. He wound up welding those on. So that's really going to look nice. So, that may actually be one of the things we're working on today. We'll find out. And it looks like he's already cleaned that up. So that's always nice, because he asked me to bring gasket, so we got that, and we got a few more little goodies. So we finally have our header bolts and miscellaneous brackets and stuff, and then the pump body's now been altered, so now we've got 2 inlets. So that's probably the one going to come from the power steering, and this is the one that'll return from, or this will be power steering, this will be the power brake for the Hydro Boost. I don't know, depends on what seems to make the best sense. Looks like he was already starting to kind of do some of the routing, so we will see how this goes. Alright, so I figure one of the things I should probably do is at least chuck some of our bolts in. But see, they got these little ramps on them and these little grooves. Helps them lock in a little better. Now look how nice that looks. So, gonna do this side next. But we've only used these a few times, but because they've got these little ramps on them, they're supposed to keep from having to get tightened every time. I've used these ARP style header bolts forever and ever and ever. And I'll tell you, at least for the first year or two, you're tightening them all the time. So we're kind of hoping that these are going to take that out, because once the car's painted, you got to lean over and tighten all that when it's warm and when it's cold and when it's warm and when it's cold. You're going to scratch something sooner or later. As we pointed out before, it's snug right here, but we were able to get a boot on there. So if that's the only real problem with these headers, that's not the end of the world. I think we can work with that. Alright, so he's off to go get the housing. He had vacuumed all that out. We bought a new 180 with jiggle pin. Without that, burping something can be a nightmare. So he's got some pretty fancy chrome bolts here. Like I said, he went to go get that. I want to make sure I'm happy with the fit before we RTV and gasket this thing. Alright, so that looks all pretty and nice and red. Pretty sure it's going to be the angle we wanted. You know, there's only a few angles for small blocks and big blocks in this case, but that'll point right over to our radiator. Real happy with that. Let's get her bolted down. And for all the people out there that scream and holler that they don't use RTV with their gaskets and they've never had a thermostat housing leak, I'm very happy for you, but I have many times, so I always put a little RTV on both sides of that gasket. So we'll give it a few minutes and then we'll torque her down. Okay, so before anything goes together permanently, we threw this together real quick to make sure we were happy. Now, the same problem you always have on short water pump is how do you keep that from riding, you know. One of these days I'm going to have to invent a better solution for that. But we'll probably be able to make that work. In fact, this might even be similar to the shape we're going to wind up using. Because see, that's what you always wind up doing, kind of cocking the belt or the hose a little bit. Give me a second. Okay, and then as far as the power steering goes, look at that. Tons and tons of room. We've got to be careful though, because we're going to have a very hardly any head at all on that bolt. So, you know, got to make sure everything's gonna hold up before it gets painted. But one of the things I want to see now that it's kind of in place is I want to mock up the 2 return lines. So that's on tonight's agenda, is making sure that we're happy with where these 2 pipes actually end up, because what I don't want is anything getting stuck in the steering down here. Okay, so we've been playing with looking for our fittings and everything, so I don't remember which is which. I know this one is the return Normally it's a Spadier valve, but this one has a -6 on it. One of these comes from the power steering pump. The other one goes to the steering gear, and then the steering gear returns underneath. Spadier returns over there. So this is probably the way we're going to run the return from the Spadier, is just vertical like this. Put a right angle right there. That'll work pretty nice. It's probably not this specific hose, but I mean like that. And then for this one, because we've had to add that extra line there, that one, what I want it to do is come around and be just a little too short to ever hang down here and loop in like that, and then right angle on for the return. So we'll go from there. Okay, so we've got this pretty mapped out how we want this to work. The one thing I'm not super stoked about is how the high pressure line is going to have to come basically straight towards us because it's a right angle. So there'll be an adapter and a right angle. Now this is all coming back apart, so we're not going to build that yet. The other thing is, I think I'd like to wait to build those until we have this inner fender sitting here, because I need them really to get as far away from the exhaust as possible, but not become an issue on the fenders, because I'd really like, because this is the pressure line, that's the one that's going to come from here. I would love for that to be very nicely done and just the right length. So we'll deal with that in a little while. It won't be today. And we've decided, since all the fittings for the high pressure line are the silver, that's what we're going to do for the returns as well. So all our right angles will be this nice natural metal. So that'll look really nice. Yeah. So I think we're gonna be able to make this work. Also, the belt lengths, perfect. We finally have those exactly where we want them. So that's a 75/35, and that's a, I believe it was a 45/30 or 74/35. So they're like 10 inches difference. But you can see we're definitely going to always fight that fight. Not uncommon. You can fight that one all the time. So we're moving along. Alright, so we've got that all back apart for cleanup, paint, a little bit of changing, but slowly getting there. You got to learn a little here and a little here. And then, hate to have to do it, but I'm going to call out CVF on this. How come you didn't send us a new freaking nut with our kit for the pulleys and stuff? Because obviously the one we have, not new, our new pump didn't come with one. So it would have been just nice for it to come with it. You knew what size it was. It's a keyway pump, so when we ordered the pulley, that would have been a nice option. And these little caps for -6 and -8 and stuff, they sure have been pretty nice. Gotta keep stuff out of everything. Well, that, I think old ShopRex there, he's calling it. I know it never looks like a lot, but all these little things, they gotta get done. So pretty happy with these new bolts. That's a lot nicer. And you know, it's the only problem with the short water pump setup is the freaking belt. But it is what it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This has been another ShopRex approved video.